So, what are listed buildings? You hear that phrase over and over. Not everybody knows actually what the background to it is. You can see examples of what people would typically associate with the description of a listed building here, but actually the listing process extends beyond simply buildings. So we've got telephone boxes, World War II memorabilia, letter boxes. The little white post you see there is a coal post, and in the days before the M25 there was a whole ring of these posts that went around the city of London, and when coal was transported into, there was a tax paid on those. But the legislation that we now commonly adopt and refer to with listed buildings really came after the Second World War. London, and in fact all the major cities and ports, were heavily damaged as a result of the Second World War, and it was only after the war, from the sheer impact of the damage that was done, it was only after the war that a list was developed of what hasn't been bombed and what still remains and is intact. And that is where we get the word listed building from. A list actually was made, and for the 1947 Town and Country Planning Act, the legislation changed thereafter. That was the first piece of legislation that actually provided some form of control and responsibility for the owners of these buildings. And the picture you see here, Gosfield Hall, is the first listed building. It is Grade 1 listed, dates from 1545, although it's got a later facade on the front of it. It just happens to be the first building. It's of no greater importance than any other Grade 1 listed building. It's just the very first one because, as I say, there was an actual list. So, listed buildings have a control and a responsibility for what you can and can't do to them. It doesn't mean to say they're museum pieces, but it does mean to say that a procedure needs to follow through for listed building consent when alterations need to be made. And there'll be a separate video on that if you're interested in that subject.